Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition of the State of the Saints podcast, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints and in the future tense. We're going to be answering the question, are the New Orleans Saints still a Super Bowl contender? And the reason I decided to come up with this topic is because, according to Vegas, the Saints have the 8th best odds of making it to the Super Bowl. That's right. Despite the fact that Drew Brees is most likely going to retire this season, with his offseason, the New Orleans Saints still are one of the top 10 teams to reach the Super Bowl. And I find this very interesting because for some apparent reason, you got a lot of members of the Who Dat Nation that just feel just because Drew Brees is going to retire that the Saints are going to fall off the cliff. And maybe that's something that you've been hearing throughout, the entire tenure of Drew Brees' career, probably mostly from Atlanta Falcons fans, Carolina Panthers fans, or even Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. But here's the thing, man. This team has been building. They've been building for a very, very long time. You want to come up here too? Probably got noodle all over your face. You got to wipe your face. You're going to be on camera now. He just finished eating his dinner here. But anyway, the New Orleans Saints, man, I think a lot of people just feel like it's all over for them. Goodbye, farewell. Like you guys were, a pretty relevant team throughout the time of Drew Brees, but now Drew is gone. And you guys aren't going to do anything at all. But here's the thing, man. We were fortunate enough. We were fortunate enough to actually see life outside of Drew Brees due to the fact that Drew was injured. Bless you. He was injured the last 2 seasons. So we seen that the New Orleans Saints can win football games without Drew Brees. We seen the defense step up in Drew Brees' absence. And we seen like some of the players that we drafted in like 2017, 2016, we seen these guys step up and we seen them perform at a high level. So if you combine all that, you got to be pretty optimistic about where the New Orleans Saints are going to go. I'm going to take that from you, okay? I know it's shiny, but we can't play with it. But anyway, I know a lot of people are concerned, but this team is completely structured to win. They're structured to win. And I think that they were been building for years when Drew Brees back in 2016 contemplated retiring. So I think that was the first indication of the New Orleans Saints having to build this team and really focus on life that didn't involve Drew Brees, and they did. So now all you have to do is get yourself a quality quarterback, and a lot of people consider Jameis Winston as that quarterback. I mean, you have Sean Payton, who has been ranting and raving about Jameis Winston, and you guys, some members of the Who Dat Nation are still on the fence because they can't get past the fact of the 30 interceptions. But if you take all that away, all right, there you go, buddy. Well, you got his cameo. But anyway, if you take all that away, I mean, Jameis Winston has been pretty productive in, everything that he does. You know what I'm saying? Like before the beginning of the 2014 season, 2015 season. When he was a rookie, man, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were picking first overall. All right, they were picking first overall because, I mean, it wasn't really good. And you look at some of the statistics, it will show that they weren't a very good football team. And when you are the number 1 overall pick, you are anointed to be the savior. You're anointed to be the guy. And teams don't have patience. It's not like how I used to be in the 90s where first overall pick, that's a quarterback, can sit on a bench and you had a seasoned veteran play a few years, and then all of a sudden he comes in and y'all polished and everything like that. Team want results right then and there. And I just think that he had a lot on his shoulders. And if you combine that with the fact that, he probably wanted to do those things, but they didn't have things to back him up, I mean, you have to say that you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And some people would say, well, look at Tampa. They got rid of him, and then all of a sudden they won a Super Bowl championship. Excuse me. Can somebody please explain to the people out there that feel that way that replacing Jameis Winston with the greatest quarterback of all time in some people's eyes, I mean, it's complete upgrade. And not to mention, this was not the same team that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had. I mean, you look at the Super Bowl, every person that was acquired this season by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers scored in the Super Bowl. Gronk scored in the Super Bowl. Leonard Fournette scored in the Super Bowl. Antonio Brown scored in the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady threw for the touchdowns. All right, so it was not the same team. There was not the same offensive line. There was not the same running game. And some of the receivers that they had, you know what I'm saying, they were pretty much the same. But, I mean, you had a lot of things that were going for you that were, more positive for Tom Brady than it was for Jameis Winston. So if you get production out of Jameis Winston, I think you have a strong chance. And I mean a really strong chance. A really strong chance to win the Super Bowl. And, I'm not ready to throw dirt on the New Orleans Saints just yet, just like some other people do, as in this division and around the NFL. So I think that they got solid leadership. You look at people like Malcolm Jenkins. You look at people like Demario Davis. You look at some of the members across the board, Cam Jordan, Tyron Armstead. So I think the future is still bright for the New Orleans Saints. Now, you still have to sign some guys. You still have to sign some guys to some contracts. Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Marcus Williams and Trey Hendrickson. We had Deuce Wenham on the show on yesterday, and he talked a little bit about, Marcus Williams and Trey Hendrickson, and he wants Marcus Williams, and I felt the same way. I've said this before here on the show that I feel like Marcus Williams is a more valuable asset than Trey Hendrickson, because you have to look at, Marcus Williams has been pretty consistent in a Saints uniform, and this has been 1 year production for Trey Hendrickson, and not to mention that Trey Hendrickson was top 5 in sacks, and when guys normally do that, they play themselves out of their situation. So I'm pretty sure Trey Hendrickson is going to get a really nice, pretty penny on the open market. So I would definitely try to focus on Marcus Williams and try to get somebody else, that's a serviceable pass rusher, and also try to develop Carl Granderson more. We seen him coming this past season. I mean, he did some good things. I remember he forced a couple fumbles. He got a couple sacks on Tom Brady throughout the season, as well as some other quarterbacks. I think even Patrick Mahomes, if I'm not mistaken. So the upside is there, and the ability is there. And, if Ryan Nielsen can work with him, throughout the off season, he can develop in all season, hit the weight room, work on his technique. I think that he would definitely be a good replacement. And you also have Marcus Davenport, who's still on the fence. Look, I think the Saints are pretty much going to pick up his 5th-year option because what they gave up for him. And I don't think the Saints are ready to give up on him just yet. I just think that a lot of people are waiting for the light to come on for Marcus Davenport. He definitely regressed this past season. But look, if you're going to trade with a team in order to get a guy, you're not just going to just throw him away like that. So he definitely got to get those injuries in check, and he definitely got to get a little bit more confident, man. Like, I just feel like sometimes his confidence kind of wavers, especially when, the football is a game of emotions. And, if a player is getting the best of you, sometimes that can frustrate you, and maybe that kills your confidence. So hopefully he can come back bigger, stronger, faster, and ready to rock and roll. Another topic I want to discuss is about Michael Thomas, man. Having Michael Thomas back is going to be key. Michael Thomas has been in and out of lineup this past season, but he's been dealing with injuries since week 1. And he wasn't himself. And, we have an issue in the Who Dat Nation. Like, we got a real problem in the Who Dat Nation. It just seems to me like we are so hell-bent on trying to get rid of guys once they sign big contracts. We try to nitpick these guys. So we look at these guys differently once they sign a contract. And it seems like we just forget all the production that these guys put forward. I seen the same thing last season with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was hurt. He said he played at like 71%, and everybody was ready to throw this guy under the bus. Everybody was ready to say, well, like he he missed Mark Ingram. He not the same without Ingram. He not the same. But the guy was telling you he hurt. No, that ain't it. That ain't it. And now this season, everybody want to get rid of Michael Thomas, and we want to forget that this guy has put up some of the best numbers in NFL history. This guy has been Offensive Player of the Year at the wide receiver position, which is almost unheard of. And this guy is arguably, you know what I'm saying, the best wide receiver the Saints has ever had this early in his career. I don't understand it, man. You know, I don't think his contract has anything to do with it. You got people talking about, oh, he talking about Drew Brees, and he talking about, Drew Brees can't throw the football down the field. Well, this is something that we discuss as Saints fans all the time, right? We're always talking about how Drew Brees can't throw the ball down the field. Or we talk about how he's selfish, right? But, I mean, look, I love Drew Brees, but Drew Brees was selfish in my opinion. If he was dealing with all of these things that he was dealing with the rotator cuff and the cracked ribs and all that kind of stuff there, I mean, just like he went to Sean Payton for the start of that second half of that 49ers game and said, I don't think that I'm unable to perform at the best of my ability. He could have did the same thing. But instead, he rushed himself back because he wanted to play against Patrick Mahomes, because I know deep down in his heart, and everybody else knew, I don't care what the Saints players have said and them trying to deflect, they know that this was Drew Brees' last season. I'm pretty sure they had this conversation, because I don't think the locker room would have been as somber as it was if they didn't know. But anyway, it was his last season. He realized it was going to be his last opportunity to go up against Patrick Mahomes. I didn't see people talking about him when it came to that regard. But all of a sudden, Michael Thomas says something, that we feel like is offensive to Drew Brees. And then all of a sudden, like, everybody wants the New Orleans Saints to have a team full of choir boys. Everybody wants these guys to be all good guys, shaking hands, kissing babies, and politicking. Look, this isn't the old South. You know what I'm saying? Where you sitting on the porch and all of a sudden a nice, handsome gentleman roll up on a horse and say, listen here, ma'am, I love you, and I love your daughter too, and I would love to have her hand in marriage as well as a glass of lemonade. Like, man, nobody like roll like that no more, man. This is a league where guys have egos, man. Like, regardless to what you may think or how you may feel about a player, these guys have egos, right? They have egos. They have ego problems, man. And that is Paxton. He bounced the basketball in the background, so I apologize for that. But anyway, these guys have egos, right? These guys have egos, man. And when you're dealing with guys that are millionaires, they're going to have egos. And there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. I mean, for us to feel like, oh, because the story isn't out there, it doesn't happen. Like, don't be so naive. The fact is that it happens. It happens. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not willing to give up on Michael Thomas just yet. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I'm not willing to give up on him yet, and neither should you. And this guy has been too good for this football team in order for us to even be considering trying to get rid of this guy. And anybody that feels that way, I mean, you're basically a hypocrite, man. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking out the side of your neck. You know what I'm saying? Like, he all good. You know what I'm saying? When he making you dance around your house with the umbrella doing a Benson boogie when he catches touchdowns or clutch plays on third down. Then all of a sudden the guy have a down year, and the next thing you know, oh, he sucked. Look, all I'm saying is, just like he did when it was time for him to actually get a contract, keep that same energy that y'all had, man. When people was up here talking about the quality of player he was and was he worth the contract. How crazy did you look when the guy actually signed his contract? He had his best statistical season yet. And the guy ended up getting hurt late in the game and hasn't been the same. And you see that he needs 2 ankle surgeries in the offseason. So it's obvious that he was not there. And spare me all this stuff about the guy, and talking about he didn't want to play and all that kind of stuff like that. The guy has to think about his own career. He got to think about his career. This guy is a businessman. He's a football player, but he's a businessman also. And he has to do what's best for him. And I would never get mad at a player for doing what's best for them. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I want to see them out there. I want to see them play. When they don't play, I'm like, shucks, they're not playing. But I ain't trying to let nobody jeopardize their career just so I can feel good as a Saints fan and have bragging rights in the NFC South. And as you see, having bragging rights in the NFC South these days are completely overrated. So I feel like Michael Thomas is going to be a key addition to the New Orleans Saints. He's definitely important to the future of the New Orleans Saints. And anybody out there that thinks that Michael Thomas needs to be traded, I need for you to go ahead and do your research, because it will cost the Saints about $20 million just to move him. Anybody that wants, Michael Thomas to leave due to some, some fighting at practice. Guys fight all the time in practice. I mean, they were profiling that like a couple years ago when they was having fights at training camp and stuff like that. Most of these guys, they probably friends for the most part, but you got a lot of guys in the locker room that don't like each other. They don't like each other. They don't hang out with each other. I don't understand it. Like, people just think that, all these guys get along, like all these guys are friends. That's not true, man. Like, these guys, they focus on one common goal, and that is to bring a championship to their franchise. And also at the same time, they're individual as well. When these guys go home, they got families to take care of. They got different businesses that they got to take care of. They're businessmen. So all this stuff about handshaking and them dudes running to the end zone, that's cool and all. But at the same time, these guys got to protect themselves. And I would never get mad at Michael Thomas for protecting himself, especially if I know for the past couple of years he has been the most efficient wide receiver in all of football, top 5 when healthy. This guy, according to NFL Top 100, was the number 5 player last year picked by his peers. So for all those people out there that's talking about Michael Thomas needs to be traded, they need to get rid of Michael Thomas or put him on a trade block. All I got to say is, what have you been smoking? What have you been drinking? And don't, like I said, keep that same energy in the 2021 season when this dude bounced back. And no matter who the quarterback is for the New Orleans Saints, you see him out there making plays. Like that. Let's stop pretending like any person can do what this guy is doing. Like, even Marcus Colston, as good as he was in the Saints uniform, when Drew Brees was in his prime, when Drew Brees was throwing for 5,000 yards, he couldn't replicate what Michael Thomas is doing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so for everybody that's saying that this guy, that just old, chip off the old Sean Payton block, give me a break. Like, why is it that we never seen anything like this before? I mean, Drew Brees, since Michael Thomas came to New Orleans, was much better. You know what I'm saying? Before Michael Thomas even became a Saint. And none of those Saints players like Lance Moore and Devery Henderson and Robert Meacham, and yes, once again, Marcus Colston or Joseph Morgan or any of those other guys out there could replicate what Michael Thomas is doing. So miss me with that foolishness like he's just a system guy. Like, who you think gonna do it? Marquez Callaway? Oh, because he made a couple plays, because he recovered a couple of punts and he did some, some good punt return jobs out there when it came to the Chargers game, and also, like catching a couple passes against the Detroit Lions. But when it comes to toughness, when it comes to being a competitor, everybody that has ever coached Michael Thomas tells you that they never coached a more competitive guy. And I want a guy that's wired that way. I want a competitor. That was what the problem was with the New Orleans Saints all those years ago, man. Y'all had all this offensive efficiency, but y'all had a bunch of choir boys. Y'all had boys that were softer than cottonelle tissue, softer than a saltine cracker dipped in water, softer than a communion wafer after you gulp down some grape juice. This was a soft football team. And I like the way the Saints play now. You can say that the Saints lose in crucial times. You can say that the New Orleans Saints break your heart from season to season. But there's one thing that you cannot say, that the Saints football team is soft. These days, these guys are physical, they're tough, they're rough. You got a handful of guys out there that may not be as tough as others, but for the most part, this is a tough football team. And this is a team that is structured to be successful for years to come. But it all depends on how Jameis Winston is, if they're able to sign him back, and can he develop as a quarterback? And can the New Orleans Saints utilize and lean on the running game a little bit more going into the 2021 season until Jameis Winston starts to really figure it out and he really becomes the quarterback that everybody expected him to be? Do I feel like the New Orleans Saints can be a Super Bowl contender at the end of the 2021 season going into the postseason? Absolutely. There's never been a problem about the Saints being a good football team these past couple of years. It's been a fact of what they can do in the playoffs. And that's one of the main reasons, and I hate to say it, but I can understand why members of the national media and some of the media that's local were rolling their eyes and skeptical about the New Orleans Saints, because even though they were winning, they were like, well, we've seen this movie before. A lot of winning in the regular season, but laying eggs in the postseason. And I just also feel like sometimes when you're on a job, when you're doing something for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it becomes repetitive. And like sometimes your guard is a little down because repetition is key, right? When you walk in, you got to clock in. You know that you go to your station, or you go to your cubicle, or you go to your office, or whatever, what have you. And you know what I'm saying, your secretary is probably going to come in, or your supervisor is going to come in, tell you what to do, yada yada yada. But what happens when, I don't know, the supervisor decides to retire and there's this new supervisor that comes in, or there's this new secretary because the other one that you had may have left, or another coworker that you have may have left and were replaced by another person. Your guard is up, right? Because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what to, what they're going to do. Or better yet, let's just say you leave a job and go to another job, right? You're wide-eyed, you're bushy-tailed, in some cases you're more excited. I feel like that's the same way with Sean Payton. Sean Payton, for the last 15 years as the Saints coach, has had Drew Brees as his quarterback. And sometimes when you're around greatness, sometimes you can take that for granted, and sometimes things can get a little stagnant, especially since you start to know each other's tendencies. You can basically finish each other's sentences. You see a guy play, you know exactly what he was thinking when he made that play. And that's why I feel like Sean Payton did some of his best coaching when you start to see other younger players, when you start to see younger players come into the game that were young, that were inexperienced. You've seen him really trying to get those guys involved. And I really feel like a part of Sean Payton is extremely excited that he has a new opportunity with a new quarterback to help them develop, for them to reach their full potential. So I just think that you might see Sean Payton's best coaching job over the last couple of years. I can say that Sean Payton probably has been, one of the best coaches in football that has definitely done some of his best coaching, and arguably could have been a coach of the year. But he has been good for so long. A lot of people take that for granted. People just automatically be like, well, that's Sean Payton, or yeah, that's Andy Reid, or yeah, that's Mike Tomlin. People just look at these guys and be like, man, these guys have always been good. So it is what it is. But I'm looking forward to the Saints' future. I'm looking forward to seeing what the offseason is going to bring. And we're definitely going to bring it to you here on the State of the Saints podcast. And please subscribe to the State of the Saints podcast. YouTube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. And previous episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?